The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Welcome to Health for a Lifetime. I'm your host, Don McIntosh. Today we're going to be talking about stress and stress absorbers. And if you have stress in your life, you want to tune in and tell other people about today's program. We're joined with Dr. Skip McCarty. You've been educating concerning stress for over 20 years. You've written a seminar, Stress Beyond Coping, and I think it's been adopted as the actual seminar for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And it's available through that Health Ministries Department, or if they call 3ABN. So we're going to scratch, I guess, the surface of stress absorbers. Give us an overview of stress. How do we relate to stress? What are some keys to relating with it?
Okay, Don, the model that I operate on is the basis of a stress tank. It came out of Australia, and then I've reconfigured it based on my research. And you think of your life as this tank into which stress is being poured every day. All kinds of stressors we're subjected to every day. Mm-hmm. And if stress levels build to the overload point, the overflow point, various kinds of harm, or if stress gets too low because we need some stress in our lives, then various kinds of harm, illnesses or accident proneness, etc. And fortunately, there's a pressure relief valve on the tank that can drain stress to safe levels. And there are 7 keys to managing stress.
Okay.
There's ways you can close that pressure relief valve as well through alcohol and tobacco and so forth. Now here's the 7 keys. Here they are. These 7 keys keep the pressure relief valve open.
Prayer, relaxation, exercise, viewpoint, eating healthy.
They prevent stress from building to the harmful point.
Okay.
And what we're talking about today, stress absorbers, are in the area of viewpoint.
Okay, so again, we're looking at our point of view and how it can help us with getting rid of stress or absorbing it, is what you're saying today.
That's right.
Okay, so how important then is viewpoint, looking at that key again, in managing stress?
Okay, we have a stress management pyramid we've developed on, and that stress management pyramid has the 7 keys of managing stress in a hierarchical configuration, starting with the
least important.
With those of the least important. Not that they're not important; they're very important. And working up the pyramid to the top, that's the most important.
And viewpoint's right up there, right underneath
Viewpoint
the top.
is very important. The bottom 4 are foundational, and then you have the power elements at the very top.
Okay.
Viewpoint are relationships and the spiritual integration.
Mm-hmm. And what is exactly viewpoint?
Viewpoint is one's attitude. Dr. Hans Selye said that he was the father of stress management research, by the way, the one who originated stress management research back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And he said adopting the right attitude can convert a negative stress into a positive stress. Mm-hmm. So that's how important attitude is. Adopting the right, and that's our viewpoint, the way we view life, the belief system for which we filter all the things that happen to us in life. Barbara Brown, another stress researcher, said stress is 90% how the mind looks at difficulties in life, and relieving stress is 100% how the mind uses its resources to resist the effects of stress and learns how to deal with stress without distress. So viewpoint is, most of the stress we experience in life is process of stress. It's not real stress. It's not a real threat, but when it gets filtered through our belief system, we process things as threatening to us or making us fearful or frustrating us.
So this is sort of like, to use a medical analogy, when something comes to us, it's sort of like an allergic reaction. If we overreact, though, our body, it harms itself. But if we do have the right reaction and the right dose or whatever, it's good that our eyes water. It's just if they're watering all the time, we can't keep a viewpoint of what's going on.
Exactly. Our stress mechanism, Our stress response was designed by God to help us in emergency situations. The problem is when we create emergencies in our mental processing of things that aren't real emergencies at all.
Now, you have a list of heavy-duty stress absorbers that you have in your seminar. Talk to me more about those. What are these stress-reducing beliefs? What are the heavy-duty ones?
I call them heavy-duty stress absorbers, Don. They're stress-reducing beliefs. They're beliefs you have that when you get into difficult situations, these buffer, these help you in those situations. They can take a negative experience and convert it actually into a positive experience when you line them all up. And it's like shock absorbers on a car. When you're going over a really rough road, and you've got really good shock absorbers.
Hey, bring it on.
Yeah, exactly.
Go down the road.
It's kind of fun, in fact.
Yeah, it is.
And
boom, 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 boom.
you may feel a little bit of a bump, but if you didn't have any shock absorbers,
ooh,
yeah, it'd be rough. Well, stress-reducing beliefs, good stress-reducing beliefs are like shock absorbers on your car to your emotional system, to your physiological functioning, and or like a cliff that absorbs the pounding of a turbulent surf.
Okay.
That's what they are.
Okay, good. So what would be one of the first ones that would be on your list?
Well, at the top of my list, Don, I've designed them in forms of resolutions, but they're really beliefs. The powerful beliefs lie behind them. Number one, I accept God as my spiritual parent who loves me. And this love will be the basis for the value I place on myself and on others, be the release point for all my fears and anxieties and worries. That's number one for me.
All right, number one for you is this belief in God, the Father who loves you and he's going to make it all work out somehow. Exactly.
It means that there's nothing you can say about me, Don, that's going to make me devalue myself, because my value comes from God Himself.
So yeah, okay. So you're telling me how does this actually work? How does it help us with stress? This belief in God.
In other words, what it says is, in essence, that nothing can alter my value in God's heart, and nothing can alter your value in God's heart. No failure. I can't fail enough to devalue me in the eyes of God. God placed a value on me when Jesus Christ was giving His life for me. That put an infinite value on me. Well, if you reject me, that doesn't devalue me. If I go into great financial need, that doesn't. Or if I don't have much education, I'm in the presence of other people, I don't need to be shameful around people with great education. In the same way, I don't need to feel that way. If you failed at something, I don't need to feel like you have less value. It gives me a sense of value for myself and for other people that's absolutely crucial for stress management, because so much of stress management is this sense of feeling inferior or feeling superior to other people, creating stress in other people.
So failure, rejection by others, poverty, lack of education, anything else in this relationship with God?
Yes, God is the release point for all of our worries. And there's a beautiful text in 1 Peter 5, verse 7 that says, "Cast all your care on Him because He cares for you."
So that's where you go. That's where it all ends.
Absolutely beautiful. And where I realized this for the first time, how powerful this was when I was backpacking with my 3 sons and woke up in the middle of the night one night, and my second son, Andrew, was just screaming at the top of his voice. And he and his older brother were in another tent from my youngest son, Marcus, and I. And so I shined the light outside our tent through the trees to their tent, and it was moving a little bit. And I raced over to their tent and zipped open the tent and shined my light on Andrew's face. I knew exactly what had happened. He woke up pitch black, and
just terrified.
Just terrified, exactly.
Okay.
And and then he sat up, his head hit the top of the tent, and he was just sitting there, the look of abject terror on his face as I was shining the light at him. Then I realized I wasn't helping matters by shining the light on him, so I turned it back on my own face so he could see my face. And I mean, he had stress hormones just surging through his little body. And when I turned that light back on my face, he just instantly melted into peace. His face just melted into complete peace. He lay down he simply said 2 words, "Oh, Daddy," and he lay down and went sound asleep. It was all over in 30 seconds, the whole thing in 30 seconds. And I realized at that moment, I went back to my bag, and it was just chilling experience for me. And I realized I was laying there in my sleeping bag. That's exactly what a relationship with God is. He says, "Cast all your care on me." And it was 7 years of building a relationship with my young son that brought that instant relief to him. And when we take our cares and worries, we panic in a difficult situation, then remember our Father is here, our spiritual parent is here. And we can just release our worries to him, and it can bring such peace and calm.
So picturing his face and casting our cares upon him. Anything else about this major stress absorber God that you want to mention?
Well, I think that's the primary point.
Okay. You've mentioned in that regard something about a Serenity Prayer, about how you can have a prayer, the Serenity Prayer, and how that factors in. Talk to us about that.
That's stress-reducing belief number 2. And the way I think of these, Don, is if you only had one of these stress-reducing beliefs, you'd have an awesome resource. The Serenity Prayer is the next one. Okay. The Serenity Prayer says, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So many people are fighting things in their lives they cannot change. And that is such a powerful resource. If we can pray the prayer, it's not a resolve. I don't make a resolve to do this. I don't.
You don't think you're working your way to heaven by saying this prayer?
Yeah,
or something?
It's not like a commitment. It's a prayer I'm praying. God, help me accept the things I cannot change with serenity. I don't grit my teeth and bear them. There's a peace about that because I'm releasing these things to God that He can do something about that I can't. And then trusting Him, and then focusing on the things that I have left that I can work on. It may be very small, what I can work on. I had a man one time who called me, and when I picked up the phone, he simply said, I heard you talking on the stress on the radio. If I don't get help with my stress, I'm going to die. So we made an appointment, went to lunch. The first time I just basically listened to him and found out what resources he had available. The second time we went to lunch, we talked about the Serenity Prayer. And he told me later, he said, the Serenity Prayer is the key to my mental health. I can see that now. We literally, what we did with that Serenity Prayer, we sorted out things that he was so frustrated about that really he could do nothing about. And we released those things to God. Just encouraging him to release those to God. And we began to focus on the things he could do something about, where he could be fulfilled in investing himself in those things. And it just brought such relief to him and such a sense of freedom to his life to do that.
So it helps you just kind of look at your life, put things in perspective to know what you can do something about, what you can't do something about, and how to know the difference.
And that is such an important...
By the way, it's the same thing with risk factors and heart disease or other guests I've had on this program. They say, hey, look, there are certain things you can't do anything about, but there are some things you can do things about. Let's focus on those.
Exactly.
What's number 2 of your big stress absorber, shock absorbers, if you will?
That was number 2.
Number 3. Number 3. Okay. Number 1 was God as our Father in charge of everything. Number 2 was the Serenity Prayer. What's number 3?
Very simple. I will choose to live one day at a time. Okay. Again, there's a strong belief behind that living one day at a time is a healthy way to live, and that is very powerful, living one day at a time. It actually comes from the Sermon on the Mount, from counsel given to us in the Sermon on the Mount, which I believe is the greatest stress presentation ever given to the human race. Because the Lord himself said, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of his own. So Jesus himself invited us not to worry about tomorrow.
Okay.
I love the poem that Helen Mailcoat has. It's entitled, I Am. And it goes like this. I was regretting the past and fearing the future. Suddenly my Lord was speaking. My name is I Am. Now that term has great theological significance, but I like the practical significance she gives it here. My name is I Am. He paused. I waited. He continued. When you live in the past with its mistakes and regrets, it is hard. I am not there. My name is not I was. When you live in the future with its problems and fears, it is hard. I am not there. My name is not I will be. When you live in this moment, it is not hard. I am here. My name is I Am.
That's powerful.
And Don, I can tell you, there are people, and I have to class myself among them, who, when they get up in the morning, they start fretting about things that happened yesterday or 2 days ago or a year ago even. And they literally exhaust their energies. The Lord is saying, when he says, don't worry about tomorrow, each day has enough trouble of his own, what he's saying is, I give you sufficient resources today to deal with today's needs. Not with yesterday's needs. That's all done now. Put it away. Trust me with it. Not for tomorrow's needs, but for today's needs. So when I reach into the past and try to scoop it into the present, or the future and try to scoop it into the present, I'm
keeping up
depleting
troubles.
Resources that God has given me to help me manage today.
We're talking with Dr. Skip McCarty. We're talking about stress, how it can be absorbed. We've talked about 3 keys to do that, really, stress absorbers. Join us when we come back.
Have you found yourself wishing that you could shed a few pounds? Have you been on a diet for most of your life, but not found anything that will really keep the weight off? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then we have a solution for you that works. Dr. Hans Deal and Dr. Eileen Ludington have written a marvelous booklet called Reversing Obesity Naturally, and we'd like to send it to you free of charge. Here's a medically sound approach successfully used by thousands who were able to eat more and lose weight permanently without feeling guilty or hungry through lifestyle medicine. Dr. Deal and Dr. Ludington have been featured on 3ABN, and in this booklet, they present a sensible approach to eating, nutrition, and lifestyle changes that can help you prevent heart disease, diabetes, and even cancer. Call or write today for your free copy of Reversing Obesity Naturally, and you could be on your way to a healthier, happier you. It's absolutely free of charge, so call or write today.
Welcome back. We are talking about stress. We're talking about how we can relate to it. We're talking with Dr. Skip McCarty. He has shared with us several different, very helpful, what you call heavy-duty stress absorbers, and all within the framework of our viewpoint, looking at things. Recognizing, number one, correct me if I'm wrong, but number one, that God is our spiritual parent. We can cast all our cares upon Him. Number two, an attitude of prayer. The Serenity Prayer is what you shared, knowing what is happening to us that we can do something about, what we can't do anything about, and how to know the difference.
To God. Release what we can't do anything about to God. Let Him work on that.
Let Him work on that, working on what we can.
Don't fret over it.
And then number three, very practical, but we often forget it, and that is living one day at a time.
Yep.
Anything else? During the break, you were saying there was something else you wish you'd mentioned.
The psalmist said in Psalm 118, said, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us be glad and let us rejoice and be glad in it." In other words, if we focus on today, there's a glory in every day. And if we're focusing on yesterday today, I wake up today and I'm focused on yesterday, I miss the glory of today. So the Lord sets us free to concentrate on the adventure and the glory of today.
Some people say, look, what you need to do is just take more responsibility for your own life. Is that a good way to deal with stress?
Absolutely. In fact, that's my stress absorber number 4.
Okay, number 4.
Number 4 is I choose to accept personal responsibility for my behavior and emotions, and will seek to influence them through wholesome thinking, beliefs, and attitudes. There was a therapist by the name of Harold Greenwald who was a counselor for 30 years, and a lady came to him one time and he was trying to find out what her presenting problem was, and she said, well, I'm not really unhappy. I don't have a problem per se. I just would like to be happier. I'm a happy person, but I'd like to know how to be happier. And it said it hit him like a ton of bricks at that moment that he had become an expert in misery. He knew how to help people through misery. He did not know. He didn't even know what made people happy.
Okay.
Is what he wrote in his book. And then he went out, he suspended his practice, went out and researched happy people, and then he wrote a book called The Happy Person. And in that book he said, my most surprising discovery was how many, let me read it exactly here, was how many of the people I interviewed for this book, the joyous, satisfied people I interviewed for this book, had undergone traumas, frustrations, and defeats remarkably similar to my misery-laden patients. It wasn't what they had experienced. It wasn't the circumstances of their lives. It was the way they related to it. It was their belief system. And these people chose to be happy in spite of what was going on in their lives, and that made all the difference in the world in their lives. So, I call this the good weather factor.
Okay.
The good weather factor, it comes from Stephen Covey. He talked about the good people who create their own good weather, who take responsibility for their own emotions and behavior and happiness and success and create their own internal good weather and carry it with them wherever they go. Mm-hmm. So you could take the apostles and you could flog them, put them in prison, put them in stocks, and they'll sing hymns at midnight.
Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Doesn't matter.
That's right. They created good weather in that stinking, foul dungeon, pitch black. There was good weather. The sun was shining in there, but that was internally created, and that's the ability we have. We literally have the ability to create internally good weather and carry it with us wherever we go.
So Paul says, when I have much, when I have little, I've learned how to be joyful in all those. He had a good weather mentality.
Exactly.
And it probably built on the other two that you were the 3 that you talked about: praying, having God as your spiritual parent, living one day at a time.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
well, anything else about that? How can we, are there any more heavy-duty stress absorbers? I kind of like that.
Yes. The fifth heavy-duty stress absorber on my list is I choose to cultivate the attitude of gratitude every day and in every circumstance of my life.
So that's a choice.
That's right. It was Dr. Hans Selye, Don, that made the statement, I think in the final analysis, he's the father of stress management research, I think in the final analysis, gratitude and revenge are the most important factors governing our actions in everyday life. Upon them chiefly depend our peace of mind, feelings of security or insecurity, fulfillment or frustration, in short, the extent to which we can make a success of life. So he says on one end of the spectrum you have gratitude and the other revenge, and these are the poles in terms of creating success and happiness in life. Now, I've created a way to create your own gratitude zone. And it's also ways that stress is created. And it's this model here, that when it comes to goals, the higher the goal you set, the greater the eustress. Eustress is a positive stress. It's a good stress.
Okay.
It's
eustress.
Yeah, the little phrase eu is a Greek, the prefix eu is a Greek prefix that means good.
Good stress.
Eulogy, euphoria.
Okay.
It means feeling good, speaking well of somebody. And then the lower your goals, the greater the distress. But conversely, when it comes to expectations, expectations are what you expect to get, how you expect to be rewarded for the efforts you put in. The higher your expectations, the greater the distress. The lower your expectations, the greater the eustress.
Okay.
So here's what happens. You set low goals, high expectations, and what you actually realize, the benefit you realize from working toward that goal is whatever your goals are, is the baseline, and then the difference between that and your expectations is the stress zone. And we create those stress zones by setting high expectations. And then if you have low expectations, conversely, if you can set you can create your own gratitude zone by lowering your expectations to like the 0 point, and then you have that same realization level, but the difference between your expectation and your realization is your gratitude zone. For instance, if I take a class, and I think at the end of that class I'm going to get a promotion for having graduated from that class, and let's say that I enjoyed the class but I didn't get the promotion. Well, then I've created for myself a stress zone, the difference between my expectation and realization. But let's say that I said, okay, I may not get promoted, I may not even enjoy the class, but it's going to have good information that I want to learn. So I'm going to take the class. I set a high goal. I'm going to take this class, put the discipline in to do my work for it and so forth. I end up enjoying it more than I thought I would. The difference between that lower expectation that I set of I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it or not even, and you don't have the expectation you'll get a job promotion for taking a class. The difference between that lower expectation and the realization of enjoying the class is a gratitude zone. You're grateful that you enjoyed the class as much as you did. Same enjoyment level, but the difference between creating stress zone when you had higher expectations for the class than lower expectations and creating a gratitude zone.
So this could be helpful not only for yourself, but the way you relate to other people in your life. If you set a real high expectation for someone else, you could be setting them up for
setting yourself
major stress along with them.
That's right. Setting yourself up for disappointment with them as well. Exactly right.
I remember that a lot as a pastor, with a goal in the church or this or that or whatever, you know.
Right.
It's very important.
I had, when I first introduced when my stress program was first published in January of 1999 down in San Diego, it was introduced to a conference of health educators there at a ministerial, or not a ministries, church ministries convention down in San Diego, January of 99. And we had a room full, 25, 30 health educators, physicians, and Dr. Handy Sides was there from the GC, and Story Proctor from the GC, and Williams from the NAD, and some people from Loma Linda, et cetera, were there.
These
and
are
health
all
educators
church
from around the
organizations.
country.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
And so when I went through the program, the first day it's a 12-hour stress seminar, and I was giving 4 hours each afternoon. In the morning, they had experts in the field of stress come in. I mean, real experts, people I'm quoting from and so forth. They're coming in the morning making presentations, and then I get the 4 hours in the afternoon. So the first
so your
afternoon,
expectations kind of went down there.
Well, you know, the first afternoon, it was a long day,
Yeah.
starting at 8 in the morning, going to 5 at night. And in the afternoon, they break for lunch at noon, but of course, speakers go a little longer, so they broke at 12:30. They were supposed to come back at 1. By 1:30, they're starting to trickle in, a few of them. So by 2 o'clock, we get going. I have 3 hours to do a 4-hour, 2 presentations in 4 hours. So, so at the end of the day, Dr. Williams calls me and says, Skip, we got a problem. Some people are saying, you know, it's not like we haven't heard this stuff before, and we're down here in San Diego. And
give us a break. Let us go out and have some fun.
Man, we got the beach. We got the San Diego Zoo down here. We've got SeaWorld down here.
Just what you wanted to hear.
Yeah, exactly. He said, I'm trying to wonder what we should do with this. So we got this problem. So my wife's sitting, she's listening to this, and I said, because she's with me for the week, and I said, you know, Dr. Williams, that'll be the easiest decision you have to make this week. Oh, really? What are you thinking? I'm thinking you make the afternoon optional. You make my seminar optional. People don't have to, even though they're there to get introduced to the seminar and to get the certificate for stress management. But these guys do know a lot of stuff. There's no question about it. So anyway, so he said, are you sure there may only be half the people there? I said, no problem. I'll do it for half the people. Well, there may be like 10 people there. No problem. I'll do it for 10 people. And there could be less. I'll do it for less. Not a problem. Now, I hang up the phone. So he said, okay, well, let's try it. He said, you sure you're okay with that? Yeah, I'm okay with that. So we hang up the phone, and my wife is not feeling real good about this. She works on commissions. She gave up a whole week, and she said, you mean to tell me I gave up a whole week of commissions, and now there may be less than 10 people there? And so I'm feeling a little bit the same way. I said, you know what we're doing to ourselves? We're literally creating this expectation. Here's these health professionals, doctors, and professionals in the field, and they're sitting on the edge of their chair right after lunch. They don't want to miss anything. So maybe they say, it's only 12:30. We don't have time to go eat lunch. We're going to wait because we don't want to miss a word of this. So I said, we're creating our own problems.
False expectations.
High expectations. I said, what would be lowering our expectations to 0 point? Well, we came to the conclusion, talking this through, that would be 3 people. She's one, I'm the other. We only need one more. So we'd be happy with one more person. So the next day, the same thing happened. 1:30, they started to trickle in. So, you know, and we thought if there were 5 people there, we'll be elated. That'd be almost double what we expected. As it was, that entire week, there were only like 3 people out of that entire group that missed one of those afternoon sessions, even though it was optional from that point on. So, of course, our gratitude was sky high. But that's exactly how it works, Don. It is so powerful, and it works that way to create gratitude. Gratitude is so important for stress management.
We've been talking with Dr. Skip McCarty. We've learned that there are stress absorbers that we should know about and we can put into practice. If you'd like more information about these, you can get a hold of Dr. McCarty's seminar. Thanks for joining us for Health for a Lifetime.